board meeting for Thursday, January 16th. And since we don't have any public here, we've got no public comments. Do I need to do a roll call? Or you've taken care of that, have you not?
We have a quorum.
We have 3 members here. We have a quorum. We can, with no public comments, we can move straight to discussion items, which we have none. And therefore we'll be moving to the action items. And number 4 is to consider approval of the minutes for the November 21st, 2013 Park Board meeting, which, because my
I have it over here. if you
because
need it.
my email account has not been working, I didn't get a copy of it.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's not your fault. So I'm just going to look over this very quickly. Did you all have a chance to look
Yeah.
at them?
I thought it was just fine.
And Ben, as far as you remember, that this is pretty much what we covered.
And me, I think it is
All
too.
right. All right. So, do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
Do I have a second?
I second.
So moved. Item number 5.
Vote.
Oh, vote. I thought that sort of did it, but we will vote. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Motion
All
carries.
right, and we'd like to welcome to the meeting Jason
Reeby.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I
And,
apologize.
no, we just started, Jason. You did miss a thing. Just so you know, you may know some of us, but I'm Joe Chappell,
Ben Coffin.
Ben Coffin.
Sherry French.
and
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Our other 2 members couldn't be here tonight, but we
Okay.
still have a quorum, so we
Okay.
will move on.
But Jason is our new superintendent of
Yes,
parks,
of parks.
and we're glad to have you here.
Yes, we are.
Wave to the audience.
Actually,
We're going to move on to action item number 5. All we've done so far, Jason, is approve the minutes from our last meeting. Item number 5 is to discuss and consider approval of the types of trees to be planted as a replacement of the trees that were removed from the planters in the Harrison Street parking lot, also known as the Victor Mall parking lot. I might just mention that the trees were removed, what, a week or so ago?
About a week ago. About a
And
week ago.
of course, there were a lot of people that don't watch our government TV channel and did not know that we had, that had been decided to be done, and I thought it might deserve a bit of explanation. That we, Bradford pear trees, those trees had basically reached the end of their lifespan. I did bring some handouts on Bradford pears, and I have a bit of experience with them because we used to have a bunch of them in front of our nursing home. And in fact, I still have some at a retirement center that we have, and last week, interestingly enough, half of the tree fell down on a car.
Oh.
And you know, Bradford pears don't really lose a branch, they lose sections at a
Yes,
time.
yes.
So when this was brought to a vote, it was a unanimous decision to remove those trees because not only had they reached the end of their lifespan, but they do create a safety hazard, and they are very destructive to concrete, bricks, and if you do go over to the parking lot, you can actually see where it busted a curb, and the brick sidewalks are starting to get a little wobbly. So there was quite a bit of a uproar from some of the tree-loving community, which I am one, but we made that decision based on the lifespan of the trees and what Guthrie needed. So in the since then, and even referring back to the the survey that was done during the Mumford and Son concert. One of the major things that was brought up in the survey was the lack of shade that Guthrie has, and I think that was the concern of some of the people when the trees were lost.
Agreed, I understand that.
But we are, since they recommended that Guthrie have more shaded areas, and since we have had some challenges with trees in the downtown area in some of our different parks, and, there are some people in town that would like to see the elm trees removed from the parking lot where where the large mural is there on the intersection of Division
Yes.
and Harrison. Basically, we're hoping to get something in that parking lot that does provide some shade. I have, and I know that there's been several recommendations, but I did have the opportunity to talk to Joe Coffin, and Joe Coffin is a landscape architect,
Yes.
and works with Total Environment, which does a lot of landscaping in Nichols Hills and LaGuardia, and particularly knows his stuff. And I had a conversation with him last night as to what his recommendation would be. And I just thought I would share that.
Oh, I think it's
with the
wonderful.
board.
We're very open to anything.
And I think,
I don't have an opinion.
Joe was even involved when the trees were first placed there. And to be honest, from our conversation the other night, was not a big fan of Bradford pears even there, because I think he knew more about the trees than most of the people in the community did. And since he's also sort of been involved in the steering committee
Yes.
to work with the funds that Guthrie received during the concert.
Okay.
And got to see the survey of the people that visited Guthrie, and since shade was one of the primary elements, his recommendation, and whether this would be accepted by a lot of people, first of all, Guthrie is a historic community. He thought that a tree that would be of historical significance to the community would be a good idea. A tree that provides shade, and then also a tree that has longevity. A tree that will be there long after we are gone. In fact, a tree that will be here long after anybody that lives in Guthrie right now. Everyone, even the children, would be gone, like a 100-year tree. And historically, elm trees were primarily the trees that lined territorial Oklahoma streets.
Right.
And communities, and there is, and of course, many elm trees have been lost to Dutch elm disease, but there is a new tree called a Princeton elm that is immune to Dutch elm disease. The catch with these particular elm trees is that primarily the landscaping, he thought of the planters over there was, and Joe is certainly more aware of design than I am, but he thought the planters and the Bradford pears were very suburban, that's the word he used, suburban looking, that they weren't really historical, that they never planted trees in brick planters back in the day.
No, yes.
And his suggestion, which might cause some consternation by some people, is to remove the planters and plant elm trees
Right
in the ground.
Well, it'd be easier.
And then you would have trees that 100 years from now would be providing shade for downtown Guthrie.
And you could never see the flowers. When you planted them, the dirt would always sink, and whatever flowers you planted, you had to stand over and look inside.
And then,
to see.
I didn't take, I didn't take a great deal of notes, but he did talk about, the type of gravel rock or covering that you would put around them, and then, instead of like a built-in bench, you could set benches, sort of antique-looking benches up underneath them.
Well, they have some of those around town anyway, the middle.
Yes, and I'm not talking, a lot of times they talk about having more places to set in downtown Guthrie, but I've bought a lot of park benches because of the retirement centers and nursing homes. And, if you don't get a really commercial high-grade bench, you can get something relatively cheaply, under $100. So, that was his suggestion. Some of the concerns that I have heard from the community, and I'm not wanting to belabor this or make it long, but I have heard a lot of them. I saw a Facebook post that said, look what they've done to and then someone had written, well, who was the genius that planted 20-year trees? So there were comments coming, who was so that the taxpayers would have to replace them 20 years. So I think in my opinion, part of our mission here, for lack of a better word, should be to provide shade, because that's something that people that visit Guthrie want, and also something that would last for generations to come.
You don't have any pictures of Princeton elm?
I do not have a picture of a Princeton elm, but I bet we can find one.
Did he say anything about the root systems or anything like that?
Well, I just assumed, we didn't talk about that, but I just assumed that if he was suggesting it, that it was not, and when you read this handout that I brought about Bradford pears, it specifically says, do not plant them near patios, concrete, or brick, because they will destroy it. I just think the pros to removing, people might get mad about removing the planters, but you're not going to be able to plant anything in there that's long-term, that provides shade for decades to come, and in all honesty, the planters are not historical. No turn-of-the-century community had them.
But I think if we replace them with benches or, something like that would have been.
Because I know that a lot of people use the planters to sort of set on. But if we had a bench under the trees, now some of the trees that were removed weren't in planters, they are in the ground, and those, that would not be a problem to replace with this.
Would we still do some type of irrigation?
Well, that's the plan. That was one of the.
And then he also mentioned that since it would be, he didn't know, he knows that there's water there.
Yes, but we want to extend the water lines to the side planters, if it's at all.
And he said that
First.
since it was since that was part of the plan, he did suggest that they put in some sleeves for low voltage lighting.
Oh, yes, we're already got the,
What did you call it, ambient light?
lighting?
Ambient lighting, and it's low voltage, so it requires very little electricity.
What volts do we need to ask for?
Well, now that I do not know.
Well, I thought you'd know because you put those in yours.
Well, we
It'd
did,
just be
but it's
low
been so
voltage.
long ago, I've forgotten. And
Okay.
whether ours are even low
'Cause I was
voltage or
asked
not, I
the
don't know. But
other day
if
and I
anyone
didn't
that's, that's listening on TV or,
I'll get
for
it.
anyone here in the meeting, if you drive by Golden Age Nursing Home on the 400 block of East Oklahoma, you'll see that there are some,
Yeah, they stick up, they're about like this, really nice.
well, those are crepe myrtles, but they are lit from underneath. So when you
right.
leave here tonight, if you drive by, you can see what a great mood that can
It does.
create to an area.
Yeah.
And initially we had talked about placing crepe myrtles when we first voted on this, we voted to put crepe myrtles there. But here's the deal: even though the Natchez crepe myrtle does get up to 30 feet, it still doesn't provide the kind of shade that I think when people were surveyed about shade for Guthrie, it's not the kind of shade that they're talking about.
Right.
And crepe myrtles do involve, at least 3 times during the summer, you have to prune them from top to bottom. So they're a little bit high maintenance.
Yes, they are.
And
Yeah.
if they can get unruly and sort of get away from you, and with an elm tree, and if anyone's wanting to know, what a great-looking elm tree looks like, you don't have to go any further than to look at the great elm tree on the east side of the post office. That big, beautiful tree is that tree's probably 80 or 90 years old, and that's what we're talking about.
Was that an American elm, though?
Yes,
See,
but, I mean, it's just,
not
But
Princeton
the
elm.
other one should.
a lot of, and I will, this is something I also remember from our conversation. Did you look up could you
My
find
phone
anything?
is not going very quickly.
Okay, let me see if but there are a lot of lace bark elms that have been planted in Guthrie.
Yes, I know. I love the lace bark
Now,
elms.
what Joe said, the difference between lace bark elms and this Princeton elm is that a Princeton elm grows faster
Ooh, that's good.
and is a little sturdier. So that's another reason that would be a good option. And I think, this sort of answers the, there you go. Yeah, and see, that would be a younger one. There you go.
It's like-
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Okay.
See, look here. See, that's a
Wow.
tree lined, a street
Yeah,
lined
that's
with
beautiful.
elm trees. And even though it's a parking lot, that would help create
yeah.
sort of a park-like feel over
That's
there.
pretty. Oh.
That's
And
pretty in the
it
fall,
looks
too,
like
with
it'd
the
be,
Oh,
yellow
yeah,
foliage.
pretty in the
it's
fall.
beautiful.
Yeah, and they have beautiful foliage.
Now,
And up until yesterday, I'd never heard of a Princeton elm.
I hadn't either.
yeah.
But like I said, Joe he has said that he's been planting a lot of these in LaGuardia, and
Oh.
Nichols Hills has lost so many elm trees to the ice storms and the tornadoes that went through, and they're replacing them with these.
That's nice.
Yeah, and see that just looks like the old trees from Guthrie.
Right.
Now, I was hoping to get at least 2 different, not just all one variety, down on south. But I do have to say that once I think about golden rain tree, they're so gorgeous. But see, I have one in my front yard, and if we did it along the street, the bugs that automatically come with it, they don't hurt
You-
the tree, but they really are a mess.
You don't want that there.
Yeah, ours is really close to the house. It gets inside the house. It gets inside our neighbor's
Well, and I
house.
think there's part of the deal is
Yeah,
the location that we're talking about is surrounded by historical buildings.
Mhm.
And I think during that period of time, symmetry and consistency, I mean, you can just look at the design of the buildings. There's, and even like if you've been fortunate enough to go to Central Park, the streets are, the walkways are, it's the same tree. And I do think there's a beauty to be said for like the entire parking lot to be surrounded by the same size
okay.
and height
Yeah, I can see
of
that.
trees. And
Yeah.
2, they will grow at the same rate.
We might get some people that are on First and Second to start planting some
Yeah.
on their way down to
Well, and
Wells
2,
Park
I
or
think
something,
there probably hasn't
Oh,
been any
wow.
Princeton elms
That'd be-
planted, and, I've already talked to my sister she doesn't own the property, but she runs the snow cone stand over there. And I was gonna have her talk to her landlord to see about planting a Princeton elm there, so that there would be shade under the picnic tables when they're, eating snow cones in the summer, so that might be something that they could do at the same time.
When-
So anyway, that was his proposal. I don't know if there's any other ideas. I think it's a great idea.
Well, you sold me. I think it's a great idea, and I like the idea of the fact that if they were all around and they all grew
Yeah.
the same. See, that's nice. Not that, one may be a little wimp and we may have problem with it, but it'd be nice if we had that consistency, so.
Do we know how many we'll plant on?
No, I think that's probably
Harrison.
something that
We'll
we'd have
have
to,
to- we'll have to
you know,
figure out.
I imagine we
Stuff like
could
that.
get Joe up here and he could tell us what he thought would
I
look.
thought I would
The
call
spacing
him.
between
That would
them.
look best. He actually said that he, you know, if he thought he needed to be here, he might try to be here tonight. And I said, well, I think I can at least
Oh,
pitch this.
I was certainly planning on calling him anyway. to
And he
get
had,
some
you know, and
information.
he actually was the one that had suggested to me when, you know, when we removed all those Bradford pears, when the city was kind
Mm-hmm.
enough to remove all the Bradford pears in front of the Golden Age, because of the new sidewalks going in, I called Joe and asked him what would be something good to put in the sidewalk. Of course, I didn't want something that was going to, you know,
Shade.
dwarf the building, and I wanted
Yeah.
something that was going to reach a certain height and then sort of stop.
Right.
And so he recommended the Natchez crepe myrtles, but
Is that what's there?
that's what's there. And that's why I know that they do require
You've
quite
got-
a bit of,
It's.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just getting it
It's
confused
not
with.
that one.
Jason would probably appreciate it if they don't need to be pruned very often.
That's right. he
That would help immensely.
We are just.
I just think this is
at
a
our-
solution that will answer a lot of the critics of the removal in the first place. And also, it's a tree that complements the history of downtown Guthrie.
Well, I'm
So do we need to
sold.
make a motion then for this, or?
So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a motion to
Okay.
recommend to the city council. So do I have a motion to recommend that we
Yeah, I
consider planting Princeton elms
make a motion that we,
and remove the planters?
Should we
I make
vote
a
on-
motion that we remove the planters and in return plant in the Princeton elms at ground level with the irrigation and uplighting.
Do I have
I
a
second it.
second? So moved, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next action item is to discuss and recommend to the city council approval of leasing the house, the Highland Park building.
The little house that sits.
The little
next to
house, the superintendent's house was
Yes.
what we called it when we were growing up.
Mhm.
I think actually we called it the caretaker's house.
Caretaker's
Did we not?
house, right,
When I was 6
uh-huh.
and 7. I always thought that would be a great place to live,
Oh, yeah.
right in the middle of the park.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let's move there.
So we have a lease agreement here, and we might take a little bit of time to,
I've lost it under all of the
Yeah.
Bradford
we have
pellets.
some information tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure you had plenty of information.
Take one of these two.
That's my copy, but I'll give you this copy.
Well, oh, here it is. Here it is, here it is. Should I read this out loud? or
Well,
should
I wouldn't, I
what-
would
what's your
just,
suggestion?
the superintendent or the tenant would be responsible for being sort of a caretaker or have sentinel duties around Highland Park area, and he would be kind of there to keep.
Including but not limited to
right.
painting, lawn mowing, picking up
Right.
trash, replacing broken windows. That's a great thing.
And then he
They would-
would also provide the cleaning of the Highland Hall between the events that take place on the weekends
And you
and
would pay
holidays.
and pay the utilities.
Yes, they would, he would.
Now, what's this
The monthly
number
rental would be
three?
$100.
Yes.
What's this, $25?
That's
Late
if it's
fee.
late on
That's
the-
a late fee.
Every
That's just a
day?
late
fee.
Isn't that a little,
Every 7 days.
oh, every 7 days, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
And
glad
that's
you
pre-
pointed out 7, I was like.
And that's pretty standard.
Yeah, it's
for a
pretty
lease.
standard.
Okay.
Randall did this.
Okay,
City will provide proper identification so authority will not be questioned. Is that some kind of badge or something?
Yes, and he will eventually get a badge. I don't know, we haven't, not a badge, it's
That's a good
actually a
idea as
name
well.
tag with,
Um,
we need to do that down at police department.
now is
And
this,
this is, the city's representative, of course, will be the city manager.
are
So
his.
they're the landlords, right?
Yes, the city's the landlord.
And nothing in the agreement is construed to create an employment relationship between the owner and the occupant.
And if something breaks, he calls the city and they fix it.
Depending
Now
on.
explain that to me.
What?
Nothing in the agreement is construed in such a
In
manner
other
as to create
words-
an employment relationship.
In other words, he is not considered an employee as far as the agreement goes. He's a tenant.
Okay.
Okay.
Even though
If,
the
if we,
tenant is,
if we rented it to somebody else
He-
that didn't work for the city,
he
then.
would still be required to do the same kind of
Yes,
things. Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
And the owner will not, the city will not be required to make any improvements to the premises except as what's agreed to
Right.
here.
But they're
And the
agreed to,
occupant agrees to make certain repairs and improvements
To
at his
fix
own
it.
cost.
right, Joe?
Pardon me?
They'll fix anything
Oh,
that's
yes,
broken.
yes.
Okay.
And repairs
There's
on the
certain-
building that would need to be done by the tenant or repaint woodwork and kitchen cabinets,
just
repaint
some-
building trim
some minor
outside,
stuff.
clean windows, trimming shrubs.
That sort of thing.
But
But we are going to do some updating before we hand it over to him. We're
And what,
gonna-
what updating will you
What we're
do?
going to do is put in a new kitchen sink. They have just a wood counter. We're gonna put a countertop, and we're gonna fix the doors, the back door, and,
Looks like it's rusted, stained.
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
real old, and see the
Look at the
faucets.
two faucets.
Oh,
Yeah,
my word.
We're gonna put a new sink and faucets and
I've
new
never-
countertop.
I don't think I've
But
ever seen
it's-
faucets like that in the house.
That's old.
Those are old.
That's old. But it's been well taken care of. Lou did a good job of taking care of it. We will be fixing a shower in that clawtooth bathtub, you know, the kind that comes up and they have
Uh-huh.
Oh, so
a
keeping the
shower
tub
ring.
there and just adding the shower.
Adding the
Okay.
shower. And we're gonna redo the back door and the front door because the jambs are
Bad.
bad and rotten, and so that we'll do that, and then we'll put carpet through the house, except for the kitchen.
And this will
Carpet?
be,
I guess the floor can't be hardwood. It's not,
Well, it would,
Carpet's better.
carpet would help, it has a crawl space under the house, and the carpet will help keep it warm.
yeah, I understand.
Is there any, I guess what I'm wondering here, is there any restrictions on like repainting the building trim outside as to what color the trim should be, or, I mean?
Well, I'm sure we'll stay with what it is,
Okay,
because.
that would be fine, but I'm just wondering, you know.
No, we won't
Not
change
that-
color.
Not that Jason would paint the trim purple outside or
No,
anything,
no.
but just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right, and it removes the owner from liability.
Right,
Looks good to me.
okay,
So,
we will.
do I have a motion to recommend to the city council approval of the lease for the Highland Park Cottage building?
I make a motion to, and then that's as far as I remember.
That's good, that's all you have to do. I make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Approve the lease.
as written.
Do I have a
That's why
second?
other
I
people do
second.
this.
Motion carries. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Moving on to item number 7, announcement from staff.
Well, it's been quite busy.
This is going to be quite a short meeting
Quite
for
busy.
us lately.
We've been getting Jason acclimated
Now,
to,
when did Jason start?
Jason started the 2nd of December.
I
You
don't
barely got
remember,
your
I believe.
feet
Or
wet.
the
I don't
6th of
remember.
December, I can't
I don't
remember.
remember.
Early December before.
Early December. So
And,
not quite 2 months.
yeah, he's not been here quite 2 months, but anyway, he's really taken hold. The crew really likes him, and they're working diligently getting the, why don't you tell them what you've been doing out there at the cemetery? That's,
We have been just doing a lot of cleanup. Around the shop, there was just a lot of
Oh, I'm so glad.
material
Yeah.
that was
I've noticed. Me.
just things left over from
Yeah, I had to.
whether it was busted playground equipment or broken park bench or, I mean, there's all kinds of things
I'm glad
down
to hear
there.
that.
But we've just trying to give the cemetery a facelift, pretty
Good.
much.
Well, that's great.
We've spent this entire week doing nothing but shrubs and trees, trimming, keeping things up off of the ground so that our mowers can access everything. Pretty much, I mean, we're really just, the goal is to make it as easy for us as possible come the growing season. Because the cemetery is such a large area.
Absolutely.
And it's very meticulous work in there. You know,
Yeah.
on the right of ways, you can get away with a little bit, I guess, for lack of a better term. It doesn't have to be immaculate. It has
Oh,
to
you
look
mean on
good.
like city streets and
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah, yeah.
But
That's
as
sort
far
of the sacred ground out
as far
there.
as the cemetery, it's close to people's
It is.
hearts, and it's important that it looks
Looks
good.
good.
And so we're doing things to make it as easy on us as possible, so that we aren't spending as much time out there, and we're able to accomplish things throughout the city as well. And I'd encourage anybody, if you're curious as to what we're doing out there, stop on by out there. Let us
This is
know.
North Pine, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe it's
We're
1808.
also working on the office itself, doing
Yes.
So when someone asks a
there.
question like that, you know they're not from Guthrie originally.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
really? No? What would you also say?
You don't have a lot of relatives out there, do you?
No, I don't. Unless it's in the part of the Boot Hill, you know, where it's. Now, what did you used to say when you were talking about the cemetery? How would you tell people where it is?
Well,
Well, you
no,
wouldn't
but
have
if you,
to.
but if you lived here, you didn't
Yeah.
have to, if they lived here, they
wouldn't
didn't
have
ask.
to.
That was my point. If you'd grown up here, any other announcements from staff?
No?
He was just saying we were doing good, I guess. Sounds good.
Not for me.
All right.
No, I think that
Okay.
it's been a
Well, we're glad
good
to-
meeting. Glad to-
Nice to meet you.
It's a
Know your
pleasure to
dad
meet
and
you
your
guys.
mom. Great people. Glad
Thank
to
you.
have you on board.
I am too.
And item 8, any requests or comments from members of the board?
Do I?
You can say anything you want. You're a member of the board, even though you weren't born here.
Remember, it's being recorded, shared.
Carpetbagger.
Carpetbagger. We're working on some ideas for the skateboard park.
Oh,
And that's the.
with the
park-
transportation department.
Yes, and that's my pet agenda is to get that skateboard park functioning really great so the kids don't go splat, you know? And we're going to get it doing really good.
Well, and
And I
and
have
during,
What?
and during,
Ritz-Hop Park.
and during Mrs. French tenure, there's been 2 new events added to the skate park. And
2 or
due to-
3.
Yeah, due to her,
I'm thinking 3.
yeah, due to her constant harping.
Yes.
It's her passion. That's great.
I wouldn't say that if she wasn't a good friend of mine.
I
What?
think it's
So
wonderful.
when are we gonna see you on the skateboard?
I'm going to be
And,
sitting there going, yay.
All right. And I've got nothing, so,
Well, you all think about what you want on your next agenda. That
All
will
right.
be in March on the 20th. So.
sounds good. And let Maxine or
Or
her
Annette.
secretary know.
Well, we will have a new secretary.
Oh,
so
okay.
Annette has taken Valerie's place. Valerie retired.
Okay, starting to be like Murphy Brown's secretary over there.
I'm telling you.
All right, so meeting adjourned.